No, so here's what happened. When 50 Cent pulls into his grandmother's driveway, Kenneth McGriff, a guy named Son from East New York, and a guy named Godby, who's a 5%er and a former member of the Supreme Team, acting in concert, shoot 50 Cent, I believe it was 9 times.
What do you remember about the Supreme Team's operation?
Yeah, you know, I always see a lot of numbers. So there's different eras of the Supreme Team. You know, the first Supreme Team case I wasn't around for, and Kenneth McGriff was actually in jail. He took a plea on I think a conspiracy to distribute drugs, and I think he got like an 8-year bid or something like that. And while he was in jail, his nephew, Gerald Miller, was like, you know, he'd order drugs up from Colombians and kill them. You know, beefs on the street, he took to these real violent levels. And so everyone feared the Supreme Team, but they feared the Supreme Team under Gerald Miller, whose street name was Prince. And so just large amounts of, you know, crack sales in the projects, you know, lots of ripping off suppliers, you know, and just, you know, more senseless acts of violence. If you want to sell drugs and make money, the last thing you want to do is have violence associated with your crew, because it's going to bring heat. But again, you know, he was like the other guy, you know, just not smart, crazy, violent, and without McGriff around, he had nobody to tame him and keep him, you know, in check. So.
And how did Prince just like how did that?
So the feds did a case with the NYPD, and they ended up taking the Supreme Team down. I mean, he had to get somewhere in the life range. You know, he was prosecuted by the feds. You know, and that kind of was the end of the power. You know, the real powerful era of the Supreme Team. When McGriff came out of jail, Supreme, the game changed a little bit. You know, there was more intense pressure from the police. There was more sophisticated tools and prosecutorial kind of tools to get these guys. The drug sentencing guidelines went way up for crack and coke, more so for crack. So for something you would do maybe 8-year, 10-year bid, you could go away to jail for the rest of your life. So people started to be a little bit more careful, and there was money to be made, but not like that initial era. So.
I see. Now, how did at that time? How did you or hip hop intertwine? Did it with the Supreme Team? Were you aware of any artists?
You know, so I ended up getting involved in. I got a call from a chief who asked me to take a look into the Corley gang. James Corley had gotten out of jail, and he was eluding his parole officer and taking them on 90-mile-an-hour chases on the highway, and he asked me to go grab him. So when I went to look for him, all the different detectives that I talked to out in the field told me, hey, you should be looking at this guy Supreme now. He's out of jail, and there's some acts of violence going on. His lieutenant, Black just got killed. There's some different beefs going on, and it has to do with he's hooked up with his Murder Inc. records, and he's bodyguarding, or he's giving protection to this guy, Ja Rule, this performer, and they shot this other rapper, 50 Cent. So, you know, I mean, I've always been a real big music guy, so I knew a lot about hip hop. I came from the Bronx. I lived the next neighborhood over from where the Black Spades came from, which turned into the Zulu Nation and all those guys. So I always knew about hip hop and you know, urban culture, and so I was like, wow, you know, let me check this out. And a detective from the 103rd Precinct gave me a mixtape from 50 Cent, and I thought it was great. You know, it was How to Rob and songs like that. So I was like, you know, this really interests me. So I never did catch Corley, and I went and put all my efforts into seeing what was going on with the Supreme Team, and we put a case together based on, you know, several homicides, drug trafficking, and it took 5 years to do. The IRS got involved and brought in, you know, guys to look at Murder Inc. records. and it was a crazy 5 years of, the press and 50 Cent coming out and getting like the #1 album in the country. I mean,
Right.
and it wasn't like I was in 50's corner, but he was a victim in the case. He kept his mouth shut. He refused to cooperate. I went after him, I don't know how many times. I tried to get his attorney, Bob Kalina, to get him to cooperate. He never would.
Really?
He flat out told me he wouldn't cooperate. So I give him a lot of credit. Someone shoots me 9 times, I'm going to go hide for a bit. He came right back out, got in the ring, started fighting. So for me, it was like I saw it as a victory in the way that the guy who shot him, who arranged to shoot him, was going to jail for the rest of his life. So,
Which was Hamo, right? Or
No. So here's what happened. When 50 Cent pulls into his grandmother's driveway, Kenneth McGriff, a guy named Son from East New York, and a guy named Godby, who's a 5%er and a former member of the Supreme Team, acting in concert, shoot 50 Cent. I believe it was 9 times. 50 looks up, he's getting shot, so it's hard to see, and he turned to the guy he was with and said, I think that was Hamo. Now, Hamo was a guy named Darryl Baum, who's a famous, robber from Brooklyn, really tough guy, tough with his hands, not a shooter, not a killer at all. But 50 said, wow, I think that was Hamo. So he had it in his head that Hamo probably took the contract to get him, because he had trouble with the Supreme Team, he had trouble with the Murder Inc. Records guys. So he figured that it was a contract out on him and Hamo took it. Well, when I heard who the shooter was, this kid's son, he didn't have an arrest record. And I thought, well, that's odd. And so I ordered his driver's license photo. It's like, well, this kid don't look anything like Hamo. So I ended up getting some good surveillance photos from a source of mine. I used to have paparazzi guys give me photos, and I'd say, don't concentrate on the rapper, concentrate on all the guys around him, get me good photos. And when I finally identify him, there is a resemblance to Hamo. And I could see why 50 thought that Hamo was shooting him. Because 50 never cooperated, we were able to get corroborating evidence of who the players were, who shot guns, who hid the getaway car, everything. But because 50 wouldn't cooperate, we really didn't have anything to go by. So the case was solved. We never got credit for it. 50 ever wants to talk about it, give him my number.
I knew somebody who worked for 50. This person is from Jamaica, that area as well. But we used to always talk, especially in his days with 50 Cent, because he eventually went to jail and then he got out. The internet even took, because, thought it was Hamo, and then he confirmed, like, yeah, it wasn't Hamo, it was this other guy.
Right.
And that's when I know you were a real deal. Because I know it was something to the effect of that it wasn't Hamo and his whole thing, and either 50 just didn't know, maybe he got bad intel that it was Hamo. But when he told me, somebody who used to be in the inner circle with 50 who told me, okay, it wasn't Hamo, then all right, then I know that you were telling me the truth.
Yeah, no, and we were all confused about it too, because we figured he named himself after a Brooklyn-based thug, right? And he makes his, he's 50 named himself after, I forget 50 Cent's real name, Kelvin something or another.
Right.
Anyway, he knew a lot of people. He was pushing mixtapes. He's traveling around the city. He knows people, and he would know what Hamo looked like, I'm assuming. And so anyway, when he put that in his lyrics, we were kind of like, doesn't make sense. And then when I saw what this guy, Rob Lyons, looked like, who's the shooter, I was like, man, all I had on him was a driver's license photo. And then finally I got my eyes on him in public and got some good photos of him through some, I used the terrorism section of the LAPD and a paparazzi guy I knew from Beverly Hills who went to a club and took pictures of them. And then, I had some informants look and say, yeah, that's him right there. And then I also had the LAPD's terrorism unit follow them into LAX before they were getting on a plane, got pictures of all the entourage. And so, we started to identify these guys who we only had nicknames on or whatever. And so, yeah, it was interesting times. And you got to use, call in favors from friends and different people and make things happen, because it's so hard to follow these guys around. They're always on the move. They don't move around till late at night. And it's hard getting manpower out late at night with, you need like 7, 8 cars to follow people. So.
Right. Whatever happened to Brooklyn's son? That's his name, right? Brooklyn's son or son?
I only knew him as Son. I don't know if it was supposed to be S-U-N, S-O-N. I just knew it was Son. And his real name was Rob Lyons. Rob Lyons. He's from the Pink Houses. The 50 Cent shooting went down. It was this guy, Godby, that was his 5% name. His real name was Chauncey Milliner. It was Supreme, real name Kenneth McGriff, and Son, real name Rob Lyons. And they got him at 50's grandmother's house. They shot him up. And after they shot him, they took the car to Brooklyn and gave it to a guy and asked him to hide it for them. And the car disappeared. We ended up finding the car later on. It was resold. And it was exactly what our cooperator told us. There was traps in the floorboards where they hid the guns and everything else. So basically, this guy just parked the car on the street somewhere, took the plates off, and the marshals got it for tickets, and they sold it at an auction. But we recovered the car, everything. We never got the guns. We ended up talking to a lot of these guys, and I won't say who, but one admitted to being there and being a part of it. The other one said that, you can come back, and if you ever bring charges down, I'll consider cooperating. So I'm just going to leave it there like that.
So,
but again, if they're going to do the murdering story, guys, what's 50's company? He's got this big production company.
Unifilms?
They're going to start shooting down, I think in Shreveport, Louisiana. They bought like some massive place down there to do television production. And my fear is they're going to do this story and they're going to have these corny FBI agents with suits on. And I'm telling, we had some really good street cops out there following around, and they know a lot of the stories because we used to pull them over and fuck with them once in a while and try to see who was in the cars with them and stuff.
Right.
But, 50 had some bad guys with him, or I shouldn't say bad guys, some capable guys with him. And but he was a victim in our case, and our case was more about the people that shot him, obviously, than what 50 was up to. So, that was where we put our efforts, because our case was on Supreme.
Right.
And, but, to start a case and realize the only way you're going to get a prosecution out of this is to really get a RICO case going, and then to have a successful prosecution was, it was a really big deal. If it wasn't for my partner, Tony Castiglia, he was like just all over the case. He was, a real brilliant guy. And we all got in touch with talented people to make that thing happen. And I'm not bragging, but between like me and Tony, without us, that case, none of those things ever would have been prosecuted. There's no way. You know what's funny? The guy who was in the car with 50 Cent, he got arrested for some serious charge. I forget his name. And I went up to see him in state prison, and he was scared shit. He wanted nothing to do with it. He was looking at us like, please, just leave me alone. I want no part of this. So, I always wondered if 50 thought he set him up or whatever, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't the case.
He did an interview, actually. I'm not sure if you saw it.
No. But yeah, I'd love to talk to that guy, because he wanted, and he held strong, and he played by the street rules. He wouldn't cooperate with us. He just kind of nodded his head as we were talking to him. But,
J.U. or Jew? Is his name J.U. or Jew?
I don't remember.
Jew. Here's a guy that claims he did an interview. This guy?
Man, it's been so long. He looked a lot like that kind of guy. Yeah, had that kind of, like a thinner build, not a big guy, not a tall guy. Yeah. He was respectful, but quiet as shit. He didn't want, he didn't want to be put in that position.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think I don't think he knew. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't seem, when he does his interview and talks, he didn't seem to have no clue what was going on.
Yeah. I wonder if 50, I ever talked to him again or whatever. I don't, like I said, I don't know anything about the guy. Nobody knew this guy. He obviously had some kind of street rep or whatever. He's hanging out with 50, and he whatever crime he committed, he was doing some good state time on.
Oh, yeah?
So, but I didn't know anything about the guy, and his name never came up when people started talking about their involvement in it. So,
Is son still alive, or is he?
the last I heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, I heard that he moved out to LA and he stayed out there. And then I hear once in a while that maybe he's still with Murder Inc. or with, whatever they are now. You know what I mean? I mean, I think Murder Inc.'s pretty much dead. So,
Right.
but yeah, those guys, I don't think they really do much of anything. They talk about doing films. They're going to do Supreme's life story and stuff. But I never see anything happen. They've been talking about that for 10 years. So
Right. Now, there's a picture you saw on your Instagram. Is this one of these guys? Maybe it's better.
yeah, where'd you get that picture from?
It's on me. I'm on your Instagram.
Oh, that's my Instagram?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see. Let me back up.
Yeah.
Is these who's the shooter?
This guy right here at the end.
Okay, can't really see his face, but
You can see if you blow it up.
yeah. Let me see if I could focus on.
I hope you're showing the right guy.
Right. This guy,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, there's probably a better picture I have, but actually a paparazzi, a guy named E.L. Woody, actually I called him and I said, hey, I just got a tip that this guy Ja Rule is with a guy I'm looking at, but I don't have a good picture of him. Could you just take a picture of everyone coming out of the club? And I think that might have been a club out in LA called Lotus. And so Woody went out, took some photos, and they were so big in that he couldn't email them to me. So I had to he sent me a disc, and then I asked the LAPD to follow them the next day from LAX when I heard they were getting on a plane. So, but yeah, that's the first time we got, for sure, he was identified after that as being the guy who goes by the name Son. So,
Right. Kind of got spooked when I got up and showed you the picture.
I'm like, where'd you get that from? Shit. I didn't, because if I put something on my Instagram, nobody knows who it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's my friends looking at it. But I do have another Instagram that my kid's been running for me. I'm going to have to get all those pictures up there so you can have easier access to it.
Right.